The future is moving faster than we think. Welcome to the world of AI. What if we could change the frontline experience to be faster and more powerful while saving time, cost, and labor? The future of AI is transforming employee and customer experience. Tomar Garzberg, I want to say his name right, TEDx speaker and founder and CEO of ybot, discusses how we are now opening up to new possibilities and exploring new roles. Learn more about the potential of automation and what it could mean for our world now and in the future. Welcome to the Wellness Driven Life Show. So pleased that you're here with us today. You're about to go on a wellness driven ride. Tomer is the CEO of ybot.com. That's a multilingual voice AI that uses simple commands to automate comprehensive work tasks for frontline employees. Tomer is a TEDx speaker on AI impacts on the human workforce. Before ybot, they led an automation's skunkworks, delivering innovative artificial intelligence and robotic processes automation solutions for enterprise and government organizations. I'm really pleased to welcome him in today. Let's meet our guest. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. It's good to be here.
It's wonderful to have you on the Wellness Driven Life Show and for such an exciting topic. Why don't we start with this? Would you please introduce yourself to our audience? Let's get a little background on who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you touched on it just before, but I've always been interested in technology ever since I was super young. I remember playing with robots and a whole bunch of things, and I was always really fascinated growing up. And again, just really looking at technology in a way that helped me to live out my creativity, because a lot of technology seems very rigid, yet we see that there's so much that can be achieved with it. So I spent a lot of time, including in my early career, just poking around. And I didn't come from a background with any kind of mathematics or engineering or science. It was just curiosity that led me here, and it was a pretty phenomenal journey, which kind of led me at a point where I had in essence, I was working for the media at one point, and I got pretty fed up, and I ended up quitting and deciding to start my own company, not knowing anything about anything in business. And it was an interesting ride. I had met a lot of great people, and that journey brought me across with a lot of really smart people, lots of engineers, lots of scientists, and I realized very quickly that there was a lot of people that can build technology, but not a lot of people who could speak about it. And that was a very important skill set to have when there's people who want to buy and people who can build, but they don't speak the same language. So I became, in essence, almost like a technology translator. And that's the basis of my first business in this sector, which did quite well. And then fast forwarded to today, where we've really taken it up a notch. And now I'm fortunate enough to lead a team of really smart people who we've built essentially a world-first technology. It's a voice AI that lives in the ear of people who don't work at a desk, which is 80% of the world don't work at a desk. Nurses, logistics drivers, field technicians, people in retail, manufacturing, agriculture, construction. Much of the world doesn't work at a desk, but all of the technology, all of the innovation that's born really focuses on people who work at a desk. And even since COVID, that's become less and less. So ybot is a very unique tech company in that we've essentially put a multilingual AI inside people's ears, kind of like an AirPod, and allows people to interact with that AI in real time and do things in a much more intelligent way, get things wrong less, enforce compliance, and help people, which is again part of my biggest messaging in this, is that, or part of my biggest mantra, including when I did the TED Talk, was about the fact that technology is an enabler to help humans be more human. And the role of technology is to take things away that make people feel like machines, because that's not very fulfilling when you're sitting there every day filling out the same spreadsheet or same paperwork every day.
That's not fulfilling, no.
That's not fulfilling. So we're in the business of automating that, and helping people really kind of bring out the reason why they got hired to begin with, which is to help people, or essentially just be that human in the mix. And so that's been the journey.
That's amazing. So I want to go back on that a little bit, if I may. So you didn't even start in the tech world, like you said, or the sciences or the mathematics. You began in journalism. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful because you put it together that there's so many people that can do the work and make the creations, and yet they don't know how to explain it. There's no voice behind that in order to really relate the information of what it is that they're doing. And so I think that that's brilliant. So and you keep saying you're working with a lot of smart people. Well, Tomer, you are a really smart person. I mean, absolutely brilliant. I loved your TED Talk. I want to definitely gear our audience towards that at some point. That you have one of the most fascinating talks on TED Talk. It's a hot topic right now. People all over. And I think even last month, there was 1,000 new AI things that came in the month of March, 2023. So that is huge. And so my mind's going all over the place and I have all these questions. I love that you came from kind of the world that you did. It's fascinating to me that this wasn't something, or ideally what you were stemming into from a young age. This is something that you came into and you saw a need and a passion.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. And I think studying to be a journalist and like working as a journalist in my early career, it gave me some interesting skill sets. I guess the ability to take complex topics and distill them down into almost like a very consumable soundbite, if you will. But it's fascinating that back when I started in this sector, there was no formal education around it. There was nothing. This is way before AI was cool. AI was just experimental mathematics and computer science in a very primitive format. We're talking like 15 years ago at least. It was not ready for prime time. The only organizations that were really getting value out of it were like banking and finance. And it was, I just felt like it could have a much greater audience, and make a much greater impact. So a lot of the journey was about learning through trial and error, just getting my hands dirty, trying to sell this to big organizations, even before I knew I had a solution, and then finding smart people to like smash it together. And that's how we got moving, through just trial and error, and just going into scenarios that no one's actually been in before, and seeing whether we could make the technology work around it. And that seems to be the way things go. And again, if you speak to any scientist, that's how they create discoveries. They experiment. And so that was part of the journey. That was part of the fun. And out of that whole experience came the intellectual property for the current organization. And it is exciting because, again, we were doing AI before it was hypey, before it was
Where it
cool,
was cool.
before it was cool, way before it was cool. Back when it was uncool, it was kind of like, yeah, we're not gonna. That sounds like science fiction. We were trying to sell this thing back in the day when people were saying this can't be done by the science.
Mm.
So it's
But
really
it
cool.
can. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you really went along the routes of, when we start talking about the frontline employees and how you said, so much is catered to the people that are in the desk. Well, that's not really where there's the most need. And so when we talk about the frontline experience with the workers out there, can you tell us a little bit about how you got interested in that to begin with? Was there a moment, an experience of why you saw the need? And also give a little bit of explanation on what does that look like? An example of how are we helping the frontline experience with AI right now?
Yeah, absolutely. And these are great questions. So, how do we get to knowing that we were going to serve that audience? We didn't at the beginning, but we knew that there was. So the way that we were steering our technologies into areas where people were I would say other organizations hadn't necessarily nailed. And one of that was voice. Voice, when we were getting into it, was super primitive. And again, it was a sector that didn't have a lot of accuracy. I don't know if you've ever used Siri or even Alexa in its early days. It was pretty horrible. And I mean, ours started like that too. It was, it's basically a journey that you have to commit to. But I think what was the most interesting thing about it is we didn't really appreciate where voice really would make the biggest impact. Because if you think about it, if you're a frontline employee, you're using your eyes and hands to do the job.
Yes.
You don't have that luxury of looking at a screen or touching a screen when you're driving a vehicle or when you're in the hospital looking after somebody. You just don't have, the more time you take your eyes and hands away from the job, you're adding less value.
Yeah, it's unsafe.
It's unsafe, and it's also unproductive. It's just not great. But
Right.
we were born with this other appendage that we don't really use, which is voice. And if you look at kind of, again, like Siri and Alexa and all these, like, I guess, really great advanced voice technologies, who are they targeting? They're targeting the consumer. And so we saw the opportunity to go into business, and we knew that no one's going to just sit around in the office and speak to an AI because there's so many people around them. And so we were able to identify where these opportunities are and where I would say the more prolific opportunities are within specific industries.
Mm.
And, for example, a really great example of where ybot can be used is, let's say you are let's say you're a nurse and you need to go and look after a patient. And there's a bunch of things that a nurse has to do when they go and see a patient, because they've just come from one, they're going to go see another one, and then they'll see another one after that. So there's a few interesting things that need to happen before that care can happen. Number one is that they need to read the file. So that's
Yeah.
time taken out of that clinician's day. So they need to read the file first. Then they need to go to the patient and ask a series of questions based on what they think should be asked. And then they need to document that information.
Mhm.
And they need to do that in the most efficient way possible so that they can essentially add the most value that they can in that day. Because if most of their day is spent documenting and reading documents, then the face-to-face patient time, for example, is minimized. And that's really significant when you think about it. Like, you can essentially get a nurse who might see, I don't know, 10 to 15 patients a day that can now see 20 to 25 a day. That changes the whole landscape of care and health.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of those really interesting sectors where you can have a dramatic impact simply by removing the need for the nurse to ever take their eyes and hands off a patient. It's it's a fascinating place to put it. And then there's opportunities to stick it elsewhere, right? You've got, for example, a field technician who might turn up at your house and needs to fix whatever that they're trying to fix, maybe cable, and they see an error code that they haven't come across, and they say, "Hey, Ybot, how do I deal with this error code?" And now it's guiding them through step by step, but it's also documenting it at the same time.
Hmm.
And it's a really interesting way of, again, applying technology to get the most out of the human in that scenario, rather than them having to rummage through paperwork and documents and maybe an app on their phone to try and find that answer. Um,
Right.
it's
And it really takes you so off focus of what the most important things are at that moment. Like, the person that you're working with, the client, or, the person who is injured or in need or whatever, just the task that's at hand, and like you used before, if you're driving, you don't need to be paying attention to everything. I probably should have disclosed this, but my background is in law enforcement. And I tell you what, you're doing a million things as you're driving, as you're running code, you're going 120 miles an hour, lights and sirens, and you're looking at a computer screen,
right.
because you're trying to get all of the information that is coming around. I shouldn't even say that, but it's the nature of the job. And when you're trying to do things at such a rapid pace and gain all of that information. Now, if I had something in my earbud, now you have, of course, somebody who's talking to dispatch, but it's not always the case. You don't always get all of the information from them, and the report on the person. Are they felon? What's the history like? Have we been to this place? Is there firearms involved, et cetera, et cetera? So that's fascinating. And I think that's wonderful because to me, being safety minded, it just alleviates so much of that. And at the same time, alleviating more stress, which is why, and what I try to point out to this on this platform, the Wellness Driven Life Show, is, stress is the number one killer. What are we doing to alleviate that? What are we creating in order to evolve us as a species?
Yeah, and look, and I think, I think you touched on this. It really does boil down to, um, it really does boil down to understanding what you're getting into and understanding what you should do once you've gotten into it, right? And so, um, oh, can you hear me? Okay.
just if we're still going on, we're gonna put a close to this. Oh, no, we're not. There he is.
I'm back.
Are we back? Okay. Hopefully, we'll continue this. It may be some storms moving in, so I apologize for that disconnection.
We,
Uh,
surely we can just edit that out.
we'll edit it out. Totally. So
Post
let's
production.
continue a little bit. So you know what? I want to go back because I don't know where we left off. Except that I was going on and on about my experience in law enforcement, how I think AI would be so awesome if we brought it to those, high-end fields where you're just responding, and I've got some experience in some other things too where AI and the help of that would be incredible.
Yeah, look, I think, yeah, definitely that's what we were talking about. It was about, I think what it comes down to is that you can have an ability to know what you're getting into. I think if you make this a very broad, almost like a broad brushstroke across all industries, is especially frontline industries, is knowing what you're getting into and then knowing what to do once you've gotten into it,
Yeah.
right? And then advising that you've gotten into it and having all of that interaction documented. It's a
Right.
pretty significant step forward, I think, um, in terms of the way that we do work. And you mentioned it before that you're doing like 100 different things as a law enforcement officer, and the same would go for people who are driving ambulances. The same would go for people who are um, performing repairs on power lines in the street,
Yeah.
right? There's I mentioned it before, 80% of the people aren't at a desk and they are essentially lacking technology. And so it's a really great space to be in. Um, it's a really great space for technology to come into and to help improve, because again, everyone's focusing on the people at a desk. They don't need any more, surely. So they've got everything.
Yeah, that's true. I I just had a funny comment come in. Manley says the machines were listening and tried to stop the show. That's funny.
That's
Uh,
good.
so, you know, speaking of that, we have been moving at a very rapid pace. And even to the extent, I think that there was a recent article that came out where Elon Musk and Steve Wozniak are asking for things to be slowed down. Do you know much about that? What is your take on it?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. I often wonder whether this is just some another method to throw fuel on the fire, that is the AI hype cycle. Because
Mm,
again, AI is not a new industry; it's been around for a long time, and I don't think we're even close to reaching a point where we've got artificial general intelligence. So what we've got right now is artificial intelligence. So essentially, it's a machine that's trained to do very specific tasks and do it well. And the doing it well part is the questionable part, because if you've used something like ChatGPT, it's still, I think it's in its like fourth phase now.
mhm.
Still has a lot of errors in it. Like there's, in some reports, for some things, it has like up to a 60% error rate. It's just going to get better and better over time, obviously. But um, I think the leap between where we are now and general intelligence, where it's making its own decisions, and there are essentially outcomes that come out of that that affect humanity, we're pretty far away from that. However, there are arguments that, because, for example, ChatGPT can create content, right?
Yes.
It can create a sea of misinformation. And
Mm,
if you think about it, what is ChatGPT? It's a piece of software that is synthesizing public information and turning it into a human legible format, so something that you can consume. But where is this information coming from? It comes from the internet. Who produced that information? Humans. And so if you want to question the accuracy of ChatGPT, you really got to question of the accuracy of content out on the internet. And in essence, if it's spreading misinformation, well, that's because it started with that. And so
Good point.
we're so far away from it being taken seriously enough to make, I don't know, community-based decisions that have literally direct impact. I think they tried this a while back with some other AI in New York, where they trained it on a whole bunch of criminal data, and then they asked the AI to tell them who is likely to commit a crime, and it essentially was an extremely racially biased machine.
Huh.
And that says a lot about the data fed in,
That
right?
says a lot, and it's very unfortunate to hear.
Right. And so do we want things like that making decisions for law enforcement? Absolutely not.
Right.
It's ludicrous to think that could actually happen. So I think we're pretty far away. So by them putting a pause on development of AI, it might have some benefits. So for example, they might create some kind of AI council, kind of like the kind of like the United Nations, but for AI, that essentially govern how AI is produced by some of these kind of very big organizations. But it won't stop it. It won't slow it down. I don't think anybody in their right mind would sign that thinking, you know what? Yeah, we're going to put our pause for 6 months, because if Google does and Microsoft keeps going, or Microsoft does and Google keeps going, I mean, like this is an arms race. This is an intelligence arms race, and I think this definitely comes down to a common understanding of where we're taking this and how we want this to impact humanity moving forward. But at the end of the day, this really does come down to business. They're all out there trying to make money. In fact, this is why. That's all that. I'll answer that.
Yeah.
This is why Microsoft bought a controlling stake. I think it's a controlling stake in ChatGPT. They see commercial value in it, so they're more concerned about that. The Skynet thing is interesting because again, it plays into this. Well, artificial general intelligence is one thing, and then I think Skynet was artificial general superintelligence, where it's not just. Well, I think AGI assumes that the.
Here, I'll bring that comment back in. Why not? Because I mean, I think that's, a lot of people, and I'm sure, Tomer, you come across this, but there is this fear factor that, comes across, where people aren't sure of what the future holds for us. Right. And then, we come to, oh my gosh, Skynet, like, is that what's going to happen? And so there's definitely this fear-based aspect that some people have. And so let's jump into that a little bit. What's the opposite of that? I know that your TED Talk, what is it, 5 years now? But you talked a little bit about, no, listen, this is opening up new possibilities. This is opening up new things that we get to create and do and concentrate on other than.
We've seen this in phases of humanity. So a long time ago, we're talking, I think 1600s or something like that, they had these roles, these like jobs that they used to go out on the street and physically light lanterns with fire, right? And this used to be a job. And then another job was, I think they call it knocker-uppers. Basically, these were people that had these long sticks, and they were paid to wake you up at a specific time of the day by, in essence, just knocking on your window. And that was interesting, because if you look at the way that's gone, these jobs don't exist anymore. The alarm clock took over that. You've got people who you know, obviously being able to industrialize electricity and put, street lights in. And so that's one phase of humanity that's obviously being replaced by technology. But new jobs came out of that. You had to build a workforce that knows how to work with electricity because of that. So then what did that build? Well, that brought about process automation. And this is when you started to get factory equipment, essentially machines that would make jobs more efficient. And that happened at scale. And so it used to be that factory floors would employ a whole bunch of people to do very specific jobs that machines took more and more. And now there are factories in China, I think I talk about in my TED talk, that operate in the dark. They don't even need electricity because there's no humans on the factory floor, right? Machines don't need to see.
Right.
And so we're seeing the phases of this thing, of technology, because at the end of the day, all jobs and commerce is driven by profit of a business who is looking to optimize that somehow. And so you fast forward, and all of these innovations that are being produced are actually designed to improve the outcomes of business. And so AI is just another phase of that. I think we're frozen.
No, we're here.
Oh, we're here? Okay. All right.
We're here. Thank goodness.
AI is just another phase of that. And it's where in the past machines took blue collar labor and created more opportunities because of it. AI is coming in for essentially white collar labor, so the intellectual labor.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's freeing up people to do more human-like work. Now, what's going to happen is, for example, AI.
Uh-oh. I think we lost Homer. So hopefully he comes back. But until then, we're going to go into one of our commercials. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm April Hove, the Managing Director of the Fort Worth, Texas chapter of eWomen Network. I'm so excited that you stopped to watch this video. I've got good news for you. You have just discovered an international network of women entrepreneurs who are committed to helping you achieve, succeed, and prosper. We are on a mission to help 1 million women entrepreneurs each achieve $1 million in annual revenue. Here at eWomen Network, we have a complete success system that supports you every step of the way in building and growing your business. You being here right now is no accident. We're supposed to know about you. We want to meet you to find out how we can help you, as well as learn about what you have to offer. With over 500,000 women connecting through 118 chapters across the US, Canada, Australia, and the UK, you are never alone. If this is resonating with you, please go to ewomennetwork.com/Fort Worth. Notice too my contact information. I invite you to reach out to me and check out our upcoming in-person and online events. I am really looking forward to introducing you to our community. As we lost connection with Tomer, I just want to let everybody know that this is still such a fascinating conversation about the future we hold with AI. And I want to invite everyone to check out the description below, because in that is his TED Talk. In that is his website. And I'm going to display his website now. It is... Let's see. Oh, did I lose it? There it is. Okay, so it's ybot.com. Very simple. You know, what he's doing, what he's created is absolutely fascinating. I've gotten to see a little bit of it, but I invite you to check out that website and explore it for yourself. do a little research and see all of the possibilities that we're now creating with, future of AI and how it's helping us and how it's alleviating stress. And it just keeps getting more fascinating and more fascinating. So again, I invite you to explore that. We'll have Tomer on the show again another time when he's able to come in. And for now, I want to say goodbye. Thank you for tuning into the Wellness Driven Life Show. When you donate to our show, it helps us bring on more guests. It helps with all of the back end aspects of it. And you can come in when you go to the website, it's www.thewellnessdrivenlifeshow.com. And when you donate on the show, then you are receiving an incredible follow-up email that you get to keep for your records. But you know what? We have Tomer coming back in, so let's bring him back in. Hey, are you with us?
I'm back. Definitely the Skynet. Definitely Skynet. That has to be that.
No problem. Well, and you too are kind of, I mean, I don't know a lot about, but you originally are not from the States. You're in the States now, correct? Are you in Florida?
I'm in Florida. Yeah, I grew up in Australia. Spent most of my life there, and we raised a round here in Florida. So we raised a capital from investors in Florida, and so I made the decision to move, and I moved to Miami, and I'm really liking it here. It's fun.
And here you are. Miami is pretty fun.
It's a great place. It's fun. It is. It's so good. And the weather's always hot, which is I don't really get homesick because of that.
Good point. So tell me a little bit about what are the comparisons where AI is at, Australia versus the US? Is there any major differences?
I think you're seeing like a lot of core AI tech is coming out of the US. And I would say other nations like China and Russia, who are all, I think, investing pretty heavily into the sector. US is definitely in the forefront of that, simply because I think there's government and there is commercial backing of it. So there's a lot of investment going into it. So a lot of that is definitely coming out of the US. Australia's got less than 10% of the population of the US, right? So it's the resources that you would need to start a very serious AI company there. It's just not as common as you would find it here. So the US is definitely the right place to be for this, and I don't see it slowing down because all of the big major tech companies, the Googles of the world, the Microsofts of the world, Musk has backed ChatGPT, Microsoft acquired, Facebook's in the running. Amazon's got their own thing going on. It's the big tech giants that are in this space.
Yeah.
And it's also the big tech giants that are in the space in China and all that as well. So just look for where the big tech giants are, and that will tell you exactly where AI is being built. And it's right here in the US.
Oh, that's a very good point. I want to bring in another comment from Manly. What are you most excited about in terms of where AI can take us?
Look, there is so many things that can be improved with AI. I remember reading something, and I forget who said it. I don't want to misquote anybody, but they said, we will see the first $1 trillion tech company born out of this, the AI sector. It's that impactful.
Wow.
We're living in a time where the right solution to a very specific problem that's very horizontally applicable is going to completely disrupt entire industries, for better, I think, for the better. So that's so exciting. That's so exciting to be living in an era where AI has matured enough for it to make commercial impact and an impact to the way that people are doing work. So that's probably in the immediate future. I think where we're going to next, I think the excitement is what happens when, for example, AI automates accounting, for example, which is it's a logic based job. I'm not going to deny anything of the accountants. There are very good accountants out there, and there is a need to be a human in that sector. But for example, there's nothing stopping an AI company from coming in and taking the private sector by storm by saying, you just pay a very low fee for this. The AI will work out what you got to do. It'll do it for you. It'll submit it for you. And then, you don't have to worry about it. It's all compliant. The question is what happens after that? So that's where the excitement is, because at that point, it's no longer going to be good enough to just be an accountant. You're going to have to be a good one, or you're going to have to be a creative one, or you're going to have to be a forensic one. But just being an accountant is not going to be good enough. And this is why I get excited about it, because this pushes humanity into an even better place, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's cool about it. This is why I keep saying that the opportunities are going to get greater, not smaller. There's going to be more opportunities than people on this planet. So that's the way I look at it.
That is a really, really cool way to look at it. Thank you for explaining it that way, because yeah, you're exactly right. There's going to be more opportunities than there are people, and it is going to force us to expand, to be more creative, to think bigger, to think outside of the box, to get a bigger picture. And that is very exciting, and it's fascinating. And where else can we go? I mean, if we start talking about us, exploring those new possibilities, how far can you expand with that? When we start looking at, the space exploration, for instance, that's really starting to come up, that I'm noticing. Now we've got a couple astronauts going up to Mars again, and exploring that area. So it is broadening that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's talk of sending autonomous vehicles up there as well, which is pretty phenomenal as well. So, you've got drones that can find somebody in a crowd. It's a pretty exciting time to be alive. And it's only going to get wilder, because if you can think about it, if you can think about an opportunity, there's probably someone out there that's writing software to disrupt it. And that is literally the relationship of humanity right now. It's technology and humanity, and software is eating things. It's just eating things everywhere. And you get AI, machine learning. It's all a subsection of software. It's all just computer code. I think this whole world is actually being ruled by essentially lines of code, and that is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. I want to bring our audience again to explore you and what you've got going. The CEO of ybot.com, that is not a small feat. It's pretty incredible in and of itself. So I want people to go and explore that, and also explore your TED Talk. That was a fascinating talk to me, and it's worth looking into to gain a better understanding of your thought process on how this is an incredible journey for us all. And so, and it'll open minds, to say the least. So that's going to be in the description. I just want to know, Tomer, what other thoughts do you have? Is there anywhere else that you want to direct the audience?
Look, I think if you watch the TED Talk, even though it's like 2018, it'll give you a pretty good
understanding. So long ago.
It actually feels like a lifetime ago, but
according to technology, it is.
No, definitely 5 years. Yeah, that's
ancient.
Ancient history, pretty much. But that'll give you a pretty good idea about my perspective on everything. There's a lot of fear mongering, and it's a lot of that fear mongering is actually marketing. That's all it is. It's a way to make the hype cycle even more of a hype cycle. It's the way to get people, because I mean, if people are afraid of it, they're going to pay attention to it. And that's you got to read between the lines, and I think that's the fun part. So I would say, Ted, have a look at that. But you'll end up seeing a lot more of me now that I'm in the US. I'll plan to be doing a lot more speaking and a lot more of this. I've been in stealth mode for quite a while, but I'm going to resurface. So
good. Well, excited, and you're on a good platform to start.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm looking forward to seeing who the next guests are.
Yeah, we've got some great guests, and such as yourself. And I want to go back a little bit too, because I do want to paint that picture for the audience and really clarify the importance of understanding how much of what we read in the news is hype. And it is so designed and developed to, get that fear aspect going. And so having the understanding and the awareness of that is really profound.
It transforms it from fear to excitement. That's what it does.
Yeah.
Because then you realize just how much opportunity there is.
It's a much better feeling anyway.
Absolutely.
I prefer it.
Absolutely. Like I said, I think right now there's more opportunity than there is people in this world. And there's going to be, like I said, there's going to be more jobs than there are people in this world. It is a wild time to be. It's a wild time to be alive. So it's cool.
Well, thank you so much for being on the Wellness Driven Life Show. And I look forward to having you back, because I know, at the very quick, fast rate that technology is going, the AI is going, you're going to have a lot more to talk about, to share with us, with the audience here. And really looking forward to that, to everything that you have going, to the what's next. And also, all of the new things that you're going to be creating. I had another comment coming in. Diana said, interesting topic, accurate statements too. Thanks for having this show. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And again, I'm excited to bring you back if you're so open and willing to come in with us again. And welcome to the States.
Thank you.
We're very fortunate and lucky to have you, someone such as you, bringing this incredible technology to us. So I want to thank our guests for being here. If you have any comments and you're just so happen to be watching the replay, please leave your comments in the comment section below, and I will do my best to get back to you. And until then, catch the live one so you can engage with us and ask our guests, all the questions that you have. And I want to say thank you again, Tomer, for being on the Wellness Driven Life Show.
I appreciate that. Thank you for giving me some airtime. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, my pleasure. Okay. Goodbye for now, and we will see you tomorrow.
All right. Bye.